Find out how Shoreline Behavioral Health Services works to create a healthier and safer environment for all of us. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on Shoreline Behavioral Health Services, and we're visiting with Mark Singleton, the Director of Communications and Program Development. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. How are you, Craig?
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
So exciting to think about some of the advances that have been happening, and y'all's very exciting this past weekend and the 3-hour seminar y'all held.
It was a very good turnout. We had roughly about 20 to 25 ladies that attended. Certainly it was our intent to try to make the ladies in the community a little more aware of some of the situations that go on, particularly in light of these recent sexual assaults or attempted sexual assaults that have been taking place. And we believed that at Shoreline, if we could better enlighten them, kind of give them a toolkit, if you will, to make them more aware, that we could certainly make things safer for them on a daily basis.
Was this the first of a series of seminars, or is it going to be very similar each month? Or?
Well, it started out just we were going to do this one time to see how it worked, kind of give it a try. We felt that we owed something back to the community and we wanted to contribute. And we had such a good turnout that we think this is going to be a monthly case-by-case, or I should say a monthly course that we'll run. Mm-hmm. We've also been contacted by several businesses within the community here in Conway and Myrtle Beach that they may want a similar class offered, and we're more than willing to go teach their employees, female employees, if you will, students, what have you, the same thing.
Okay. You know, for our viewers, as you know, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD in southeastern North Carolina. They'd be available or able to attend the seminars?
It's for anybody. Now, clearly, when we started, we focused on the local community, the Conway, Myrtle Beach area around, but it's certainly not limited to that. Mm-hmm. The idea that the more women that become more knowledgeable and informed, the less of a target they will become for a sexual predator who may be out there.
Okay.
And we're here to help.
Great. If a viewer wanted to get information on that, what's the best number to call? Would it be the number at Shoreline Behavioral?
It would be.
Okay.
If they would contact Shoreline directly, they could be directed to where they need to set up an appointment to get the next, or get information on the next course, whenever it would be.
That's the 843-365-8884 number?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Is there a website also if someone wanted to visit, and they may not have information about the seminars, obviously because it just happened this weekend, but is there a website that a viewer could visit? Of course, we'll be talking more about Shoreline this morning.
Right. There is a website. It's www.shorelinebhs.org.
Okay, great. That's a popular source oftentimes for folks, particularly outside of the viewing area. I think before we started filming this morning, I understood you all get some folks that travel in from southeastern North Carolina and the PD, surely for your alcohol and drug safety action program.
Right. We do get a lot of people, predominantly the majority of the people, I should say, that we get are from the local community here.
Right.
But we do not refuse treatment to anyone provided they've been assessed, and we have a treatment program that we can offer them.
Great. Real quick about yourself, Mark. You originally from the area?
I am. I was born and raised in Conway, a graduate of Coastal Carolina, and at some point I made a decision to enlist in the Marine Corps and make the Marine Corps career. So I've spent the last 27, almost 28 years away from Conway until recently when I retired.
Is that right? 27 or 28 years?
27 years and 4 months, I think, to be exact.
Son of a gun. What prompted you to enter the Marines? What was it back then? Can you think back to?
Well, quite frankly, my parents had an idea that they wanted me to attend college and become a lawyer here locally. My family had farmed for many years, and certainly farming was kind of taking a downhill turn and in the late 70s, and they had illusions of grandeur, I guess, when it came to me, and I thought about doing that and thought that would be a good thing to do. But I met a Marine Corps recruiter, and years ago there used to be a recruiter from Florence that covered Conway, Georgetown, and the surrounding area, and so on a Friday afternoon, this Marine recruiter talked me into enlisting in the Marine Corps. So I graduated from high school on Friday night, and on Monday morning I was on a bus like a happy camper to Parris Island, South Carolina, where my tour as a Marine began.
Wow. Well, now, how were you able? Didn't you mention you had Coastal Carolina?
Well, I did. I started out in a program that was called the 85-day reservist program, where you went to recruit training just like a regular Marine would. You went to your MOS training, and then you returned in time to attend school, provided you had been accepted to a college and met the academic requirements. For me, Coastal was where I wanted to go. At the time, it was the University of South Carolina,
Right.
Coastal. In fact, my diploma says University of South Carolina. And when I graduated from recruit training, I started student orientation at Coastal the next morning.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, quite a unique challenge.
Had any of your family been in the military?
My father had been in the Army for about 6 years, between the Army and the National Guard, and needless to say, he wasn't too thrilled with me becoming a Marine, but I think he grew a little warmer to the idea as years progressed. I think he's pretty happy with my tour as a Marine.
Yes, you know, as you think about the 5 branches of the services there, Mark, what is it about the Marines in particular that attracted you? And
Well, I mean, if you talk to any Marine out there, he'll tell you the same thing. That's the only thing we want to be. When you talk to members who are in the Air Force, the Army, or whatever, they want to be a draftsman, they want to be a pilot, they want to be a military policeman, but Marines just want to be Marines. That name in itself means a great deal. And for me, that was a great achievement for me, because I grew up in a very good home, but I basically had a lot of things given to me that most people had to work for. And I can truly say that I earned that title. That was something nobody gave me. I earned it, and I appreciated it. And it made me appreciate the life that I had and appreciate the little things, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And it's something that, you know, even though I'm retired, I'm still a Marine. I'll always be a Marine. There's a lot of people that are called former Marines, but once a Marine, always a Marine, the way we think.
And that service, the Marines, did you have to travel a good bit?
Oh, we traveled all over the world. In fact, I had 3 combat tours as a Marine. And so I think my family, particularly the wife and children, are very glad that I've come back home now. Things are a little more settled and a little calmer than they have been for us in the past.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, is this home for your wife as well?
It is. My wife's from Conway. We went to school together, and much to the chagrin of her parents, I married her and took her away with me.
Oh, my God,
and
Mark.
So, yeah, I took her away, but I promised him I'd bring her home one day. And we had reached a point in my career a couple of years ago where I felt that the real challenges that I'd faced before and the desire to continue to climb the ladder, if you will, had kind of gone away. And it was really more important for me to have a stable home life for my children. I wanted my son to go to Conway High School. I wanted my daughter to go to Coastal Carolina. And so we made the decision to retire, and we retired last March, came back and built a new home here on the family farm. And for once, we have a stable home life now, where before we were uprooted every 2 or 3 years. Sometimes, a couple of tours, we had about a year and a half tour.
Wow, Mark.
Yeah, I think we moved 17 times in about 27 years. I think we moved 17, nearly 18 moves.
Son of a gun. Now, is that would be indicative of most military?
Oh, yeah. There's
Right.
nothing unique about that. I mean, most military families have undergone the same thing. It's very difficult on the children. It's not so difficult when it's just you and the wife, because you pack your uniforms in your car and you go. But when you have children and they have to say goodbye to friends and they have to say goodbye to communities, it's very difficult. And for us, I wanted to bring my son, Mark Jr., who's plays football for Conway, I wanted to bring him home so that he could be in the same high school for graduation. So many of our friends would, their children would stay in the 10th, 11th grade, and then their senior year they'd have to move. And I didn't want to put my children through that. So I wanted some stability there, and that's what we did.
That's great. I think I saw on one of your last tours there, or maybe it was the time at Fort Bragg, that you had, and of course that just jumped out on me as I was reading a little about you earlier this morning, were both a sniper and a sniper instructor.
Right. That was, in fact, I was one of the first Marine officers, to my knowledge now, the only Marine officer to successfully pass the Army Special Forces Sniper School, or I think it's called the Special Operations Target Interdiction Course.
Wow.
But, yeah, I got to do that, and pretty unique skill to have. Fortunately, it was only in training. I didn't have to use it, but I'm a better man for it, that's for sure.
Yeah, golly, what was that like?
Teaches you patience. Patience and endurance.
Yeah.
Something I didn't have before, but patience is something that I never really had. I was always pretty much an impatient person. I wanted it right then and there. And to be a good sniper, patience, you have to lay in wait for the longest time. And a lot of times, people don't understand this, but sniping is not just about shooting. It's about surveillance, it's about journals, it's about making sketches and remembering things and attention to detail. And those things are certainly helpful in what I'm doing now, and they're also helpful in daily life anyway.
Absolutely. How fascinating. When you think about all those tours, was there anything over that 27-year career, Mark, that really stands out in your mind and helps say, obviously there were the activities of moving from place to place, but things that make you say, my gal, maybe it was the change in patience. My gal, I did the right thing, and this was an amazing experience.
Well, I think anyone who wears the uniform, whether the uniform of a Marine or a sailor or airman or soldier, is proud of that uniform. And I think the friendships that you develop, and I think the military, whether it be the Marine Corps or the Army, is a great melting pot where cultures blend together.
Yeah.
All the prejudices, all the biases go away because you realize that, particularly in combat when you go, that regardless of color, race, or creed, the guy next to you is the guy you have to count on. And I don't think there's a better way to blend and meld cultures better than through the military. And the Marine Corps taught us the old movie, the old adage, a band of brothers. We truly were a band of brothers and are to this day, even those of us that have retired.
That's great. Those are great words. Shoreline Behavioral Health Service has been around for a little while.
It has. Opened initially in 1973. This is the single authority here within the county on drug abuse or drug issues. The El Rey County Council, I think in 1985, in an ordinance 6-85, formally called it the El Rey County Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse.
Mm-hmm.
By the year 2000, what was decided is there was a stigma associated with that name. People who really needed treatment, people who sought help, felt uncomfortable. Well, do I need to go to the El Rey County Commission for Alcohol and Drug Abuse? So we changed the name to Shoreline Behavioral Health Services in an effort to erase or eradicate that stigma, if you will, to make people feel more comfortable, because I think that's very indicative of Shoreline. I think it's very important. Compassion is very important, and it's a watchword within the organization. I think you'll find that Shoreline's professionals, be they clinicians or staff members, are concerned with two things, and I think it is tenacity of purpose. They're very tenacious about wanting to help, but at the same time not forgetting the necessary compassion that's needed to talk with people and to make people feel comfortable about the treatment they're receiving.
So this is voluntary?
Well, yes. The way it works, to give you a couple of examples, for example, if a parent had a teenager that they were concerned might be addicted or involved with substance abuse of some sort, phone call would be made to Shoreline, and they'd speak with one of the counselors. A clinician would probably want to quiz the parent what indicators are out there that make you think that your son or daughter might be involved in some type of substance abuse. From that interview, a decision would be made to provide treatment or not, and it would be done through what we call our Youth Enrichment Services Program. The other thing, if it was an adult, if it was a husband or a wife or a relative, what we would want to do, or what the counselors would want to do, is they would actually want to talk with the individual being referred.
Right.
And in talking with that individual, they would want to try to determine whether he or she needed the treatment. And quite frankly, you can't force someone to go to treatment if they don't want to. And our goal is to try to, I think the key word for us also is assessment. As we're talking to someone, as we're interviewing someone, we want to assess the need, and then based on that assessment, provide the right treatment as necessary.
How many folks are active there at Shoreline? You've got a heck of a lot of folks then in that instance, not necessarily patients coming in, but folks working in the...
Right. I think the numbers are roughly somewhere between 30 and 40. The specific numbers I don't have, but we have a great deal of people working at Shoreline. And we kind of divide it into three areas. We have prevention, we have intervention, and we have treatment.
Right.
And based on what a person's qualifications are and the requirements of shoreline, the needs of shoreline, a person is in one of those three areas.
Okay, and again, you gave that number earlier when we were talking about the seminar, but the 843-365-8884 number is the critical number that anyone would want to call, whether they wanted to volunteer themselves or they had some true needs there as it relates to their children
Exactly.
or loved one.
And the key thing is we are readily attuned to the needs of the community, and we're readily available to help. And it just takes a phone call to try to get the right information, the right answers you need.
Accessibility is a big aspect of that. Is affordability. Is this something that folks can afford, Mark?
Well, the thing about it is, and I would say yes, but it's based on individual clients.
Okay.
I mean, when a client comes to Shoreline, and we refer to them as clients, an assessment is done on them, and they go over the fees and all the things that are available. And what we try to do is we try to assist them or get information from them on how to pay for these fees.
Mm-hmm.
We don't refuse to treat anyone, and we are going to treat anyone that's out there. And some people, quite frankly, it's difficult for them to pay, and there are things that we do to work around that. But the bottom line is, we try to provide an information package up front, an information screening up front, and there we determine what treatment is needed. It's not based on what they can afford. It's based on what they need.
What they need. And, of course, this is directed both towards individuals. I assume you oftentimes possibly even think about groups. Is there ever family counseling?
Well, see, that's the thing. There's so much more to Shoreline than just the drug abuse issues. We do parenting, we have parenting services there. We have counseling. We also have something that's called the Employee Assistance Program, where corporations or companies that are concerned for their employees contract with Shoreline on a yearly basis. And if an employee, for example, of a company has a problem or is suspected of having a problem, he's referred to Shoreline, and we take it from there, working through that company with that contract.
With high confidentiality,
that's a very big part. Confidentiality is very important. And Shoreline maintains it, adheres to that within the letter of the law.
You all operate as a 501c3, as a not-for-profit corporation.
We do. We do. And a lot of the money, I mean, a lot of the money that Shoreline receives is from state appropriated funds, federal grants, which I think make up about 50% of the operating funds within Shoreline. The remaining 50% is obtained through fees and services that we provide to the local community.
So even as a 501c3, Shoreline's not out actively trying to raise funds. That's
not what we're all about.
Right.
I mean, the idea that we care for people is not just lip service. I mean, we actually do that, and I think if someone took a look at our financial records, you would see on paper some of the losses that we've taken because we're more concerned with the client than we're concerned with the dollar.
Driving under the influence is something that a heck of a lot of folks think about, even folks who don't think of themselves as alcohol drinkers or substance abuse folks addicted to substances of any sort. Driving under the influence can impact a heck of a lot of folks. Are there methods that Shoreline would reach out to folks to help out in DUI instances?
Well, if a client or if someone loses their license, DUI, they're referred to Shoreline on what we call the Alcohol Drug Safety Action Program.
Okay.
And in that program, we discuss what their rights are at Shoreline, and again, they're screened and assessed. And while they're attending this program, given their participation level, given their dedication to trying to correct the problem, they can be given a provisional license that will help them. But you only get a provisional license one time.
Is that right?
That's it. You get one opportunity at that. And after that, you don't get that opportunity anymore. It only comes once. But, yeah, there are things that we do, and we provide education. Treatment is one thing, but education is so important. And I think that's what we do with clients when they come in. We try to not only show them the mistake that they've made, but moreover focus on what the second and third order effects of that mistake is. And we try to identify that problem, assess again, as I said earlier, and then try to provide the necessary treatment that they need.
Golly, oftentimes so much hand-holding going on in that education, not only for the individual clients, but for family members or loved ones of clients. When you think about the education that has to go on, and you talk about education, the education for parents or a significant other who wants to help a loved one get through a tough time.
Well, and pardon the interruption,
Yeah,
but I would tell you prevention is a big part of education. And in our prevention services, we actually actively go out into the schools, actively go out in the community, and kind of talk about the second and third order effects or the ill effects of substance abuse in some way or form, in an effort to prevent these DUIs or these losing license and all these things that we've run across and we've discussed earlier. Because if you've got a good prevention program, that's going to substantially reduce the necessary for treatment and the other thing.
Well, I'm amazed there aren't other groups that are doing. Are there other not-for-profit groups in the area that are interested in the same goals there? Aren't there other groups? Do you all work in tandem with any other groups?
Well, we work, or I should say our umbrella agency is DEOTUS, which is the drug and alcohol, other substance abuse up in South Carolina, up in Columbia. They're kind of the big brother, if you will, that oversees what we do. There are other organizations within South Carolina, but we are the agency here within Horry County that takes care of that.
Okay, that's great. You know, you hear about a 12-step counseling programs or lots of steps involved. Are there things that viewers who aren't even familiar with those programs and wouldn't think of themselves as coming down to Shoreline, are there ways that they could learn more about some of the activities at Shoreline? Would they want to do that online, or could they call, or can folks come in that may not even have an issue with?
Absolutely. Shoreline has an open door policy in terms of people seeking information.
Great.
I mean, we will actually welcome people to come take a tour of Shoreline and see what's there. Once they come in, they would meet the director, the executive director, and depending on who the person was and what the questions were, we would provide any information required. And I think when they see the staff that really makes up Shoreline, they'd be very impressed. And here's the thing. If we don't have the answer, we'll find the answer out for you. That's what we're determined to do. Again, I can't stress enough the importance of the successful outcome for the client, and we want to provide the right information and treatment for the client.
Now that we've talked a little bit more about Shoreline, it's a little easier to segue back into what occurred this past weekend. On Saturday, the event, obviously y'all kicked it off this past Saturday, the 19th, and hope this will go on for a long time. What the underpinnings of that, as you said, were some of the recent events in this area that have caused some big fear and assault opportunities, situations like that. On Point Strategic Solutions is a relatively new group that has partnered with Shoreline Behavioral Health Services to put on these seminars. What were some of the critical information in a nutshell that could be provided to viewers to interest them to possibly come next month?
Well, I think that the key in any of these situations where women are assaulted or attempted assaults is vigilance. And armed with the right information, and I'm not talking necessarily about hand-to-hand combat or ground combatives as we call it, but just armed with the right information, women can make themselves less of a victim. I think the important thing to bring out, if there is a sexual predator out there and he is determined to find a victim, he will eventually find one. By attending one of these seminars, what we do is we can show you how to become less of a victim, less of an opportune target for him. And armed with that information, and again, what we teach is vigilance. For example, you know, when you walk to your car, you need to be very observant. You need to look under your car, you need to look around, and you need to look and see the surrounding area. Is there a vehicle that's slowly cruising the parking lot that's probably made 2 or 3 passes? And I mean, we say that's very easy to talk about here, and there are many of us that don't think that way because, you know, we're just in a hurry to get inside the mall or outside the mall, but we need to recognize that things are not always as they seem. And this is a very dangerous world that we live in today. And there are sexual predators out there, even in this county. So people need to be more aware, and women need to be more vigilant, I'd say. And that's what we're trying to teach. That's great. And again, if a viewer wanted to learn more about that or to get ready for next month's seminar, if they missed this past weekend seminar, they can call Shoreline at the 843-365-8884. Okay. You know, we had an editorial in the Herald this past week about
some of these instances. And of course, video cameras that are so commonly used now in parking lots, and a lot of private businesses using video cameras. It's a real opportunity, but still, as you said, if someone is that determined, they're going to find a way. You're just helping reduce those opportunities.
Absolutely. If you make yourself less of a target, less of a victim, by being harder to grapple with or harder to intimidate, then that makes you less of a target and less likely to become a victim.
Having been gone 25 plus years now, Mark, what's the most exciting aspect of returning back to your home county?
Seeing my son play football on Friday night over in Conway. I think, and I guess the important thing, well, that's kind of the thrill for me, but I would also tell you that this community meant so much to me when I left. It's grown, it's changed significantly since I left nearly 30 years ago. But just as I was willing to give in the Marine Corps, I wanted to come back and give to the community. And I wanted to work for an organization that believed in that as well.
Those are great words. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Mark Singleton coming up next. Take the time to put that number down, 843-365-8884. If you're thinking about that DUI of your uncle's, you're thinking how he can get through it, call that number, 843-365-8884. Help him out. If you're wondering about your granddaughter's potential issues there and things that you can be looking for, call 843-365-8884 if you're worried about violence. Whether you're a female or you're thinking about a loved one, you recognize that an opportunity like the seminar that happened this past weekend is something that you or a loved one can take a part of. It's only 3 hours, but it's only 3 hours because they pack a lot in, the focus is strong, and they keep you thinking about the importance of really making a difference and making sure you're not just a statistic. 843-365-8884. Let Shoreline make a difference in your life.